This client learned the hard way that when ordering a river table, cheaper is not always better. They were interested in purchasing a new dining room table, and they knew about us, but they also saw some other local options that were offering a similar table, or so they thought, for a lot cheaper. So they found a manufacturer that we're aware of. We know about their work. We've seen them before, and we'll leave it at that. And they were offering a similar style of dining table to us for a fraction of the price that they were offering. So I'm going to put some photos up on the screen here right now to show you the table that they were going to get. This here is the slab that they selected. It's an incredible slab of French oak burl with just amazing character all the way down the edge. And then here in the second photo is an example of the pour that they did. So judging by these photos, nothing looks too bad, but because this table consisted of layered pours, I don't know how this mistake got made, but what the client told us is that they forgot to add hardener in their second pour. So they had this cured base layer and then a completely soft middle layer. And then in order to try and fix it, they just poured a proper mixture over top, but they had this section of liquidy epoxy in the middle. So long story short, the table was not salvageable. It was ruined. Our clients lost their deposit, and unfortunately, they did not have a river table. So they then came back to us looking for the piece, and we were happy to accommodate them. We had some gorgeous slabs of cottonwood burl, and we're going to show you the process of how to build one of these tables the right way.
In my life, I've never seen a slab that bad.
Luckily, you're cutting off half of it.
We're cutting off basically the parts that are up. Like, it's not going to end up being that bad, but good lord.
So we're using just 3 feet in the middle.
So as you heard the guys mentioning, these slabs are incredibly warped. They're cottonwood burl. They're very beautiful. I actually think they might even be nicer than the original slabs our clients picked, but we are limited in the way that we can use them because of this warping. So typically when we're laying out for a table like this, what we try and avoid is having those warp sections in the table. So the guys have laid out the table size on these slabs, and they've purposely avoided those sections that kick up high. So as you can see right here, this end of the slab had beautiful character, but if we would have tried to put it in the table, it would have been way too thin on this end of the wood. Then once we have those pieces cut down to their rough size, we can get them onto our Avid CNC machine for the initial flattening. This initial flattening before the resin pour isn't meant to get the pieces 100% flat. So you can see that on some of the sections of the slabs, we're still going to have some rough sawn areas. What we're trying to do is just get a mostly flat surface so that they sit nice in the bottom of that form. And then once the pieces are flattened, we can take them upstairs into the mold and begin prepping for the resin pour. This is by no means our typical resin pour. This client had a very specific request for their table, and they essentially wanted like an ocean wave effect going all the way throughout the resin. So in order to achieve this, we begin by pouring a transparent blue layer on the base of this table. We're using the Color Efex dyes here, just their blue, as it doesn't add any cloudiness to the resin and lets you maintain that transparency. And then after this layer has partially cured up, we can mix up some more resin with a concentrated white pigment, and we can begin to try and add the ocean wave effect that I mentioned. Before we do this though, on the real table, we did attempt some samples for this, and if I'm being fully transparent, we never actually landed on a perfect sample. We got pretty close, and we sort of learned the techniques that we wanted to do, but the finished table pour was a slight experiment. Like you can see this sample here looks bad, kind of, if I'm being honest. So here's a new technique we're trying where we do a clear layer first and then drizzle the white in, which is much more similar to what we're going to attempt on the real table pour. So this got us pretty close to what we're achieving, but again, with resins, things can be unpredictable, and it's always quite nerve-wracking when you're trying a new technique like this.
I mean, it's gonna look, to me, I think it's gonna look pretty cool, but
I think it'll look good.
Yeah.
Bad,
like it's close.
Yeah.
By the time you pour another blue layer over this, it's gonna be damn close.
He wants blue on top. That's the thing.
He wants clear?
Like,
it almost looks like blue, and then like 1/4 inch of clear.
fuck, it does. There is a line there.
Looks like there's a 1/4 inch of clear on top.
You were right.
You see?
I did not notice that before. So there's like blue, white blue,
Yeah.
and then there's a line there.
And it might
Very
actually
clear
be
line. Look at that. That's refracting, right? So this is clear on top, but it's like. how much should we do it? Like we need probably more than that. Hey?
Yeah. I mean, we
Because
kind of start.
light and add as we need to.
Yeah.
And if you guys leave a comment on this video, we'll pick one of you to receive one of our sample pieces that we were doing when testing for the table. So now it's time to try this on the real table. So like I mentioned earlier, we've got that blue base layer partially cured. I would say it's about the consistency of honey or syrup, something in that range. And we're using a popsicle stick to drizzle on this highly concentrated white pigment. We did realize in some of our tests that we have to be very careful in the amount that we add, but because of the concentration of this pigment, if you add too much, you can basically make this whole pour go cloudy very easily. And then it does take a little bit of artistic finesse here to sculpt those waves into the river pour. And once we've got all of our white laid out in a way that we like it, we can then come along and pour over that top layer that's going to set everything into place. And something I haven't mentioned yet, but I'm sure that you guys have assumed and figured out, we are using our Black Forest Deep Resin for this piece. Another tip that I can bring up is on these layered pours, there's more cooling than you would expect. So even though our final pour here is only about 1 inch thick, we've got nearly 2 inches of epoxy that we're pouring over top of, and epoxy is an insulator. So any heat generated by this pour is going to get trapped in your base layer. And even though it's not as thin, you still need to take all the same precautions to cool a pour like this. And then after we've let the piece cure for 7 days in the mold, it's time to get it down onto our Avid CNC machine to remove all that excess resin. The reason that we over pour is so that we can fill in as many of those voids and imperfections in a single shot, but we don't like leaving that surface on the table because people want to be able to feel the wood. And then once we've got the piece flattened, we can take our track saw and begin cutting this piece down to the final size. So when using a track saw to do sizing like this, it's usually recommended to take multiple passes just so that you don't get any deflection or burns from your blades. So that's what we've done here, and it just gives a really nice clean cut. Then once the piece is cut down to final size, we're using our Mirka sander to bring this piece up to 320 grit. Even though our drum sander that we send our tables through finishes at 180 grit, we still start with 120 grit when doing our hand sanding, just because the drums in that belt sander leave quite aggressive sanding marks. Now, we did have to get somewhat creative in terms of filling this piece. The cottonwood is extremely porous and full of voids, so the best solution we found for that is physically tipping the table on end, and then Curtis can get right up there and fill all those voids in the end grain.
So don't try to fill all those and then flood it coat it. You just might as well flood it now.
What do you mean flood coat it? Like just like put a layer
Because it's
on
so
the whole
soft,
thing?
we gotta just dump epoxy on the entire thing and then sand it all up.
Okay, yeah.
So as you heard Jack mention to Randy, the best way to protect this table and fill in all the voids is going to be to flood coat the wood. So we're using our Black Forest Coat thin resin, and then once everything's cured, we have to again use our Mirka sander to take off all that excess resin because we don't actually want a layer of epoxy sitting over top of the wood. And then it's time to head to Jekko to get the spray finish on our table. One thing that's kind of sad actually is Jekko broke up with us recently. Not actually, they're still going to be doing most of our finishing, but not the tables anymore. Unfortunately, we demand too high of a level of perfection in terms of getting all the pits and voids filled in. So they've made a recommendation of another finisher with a smaller operation that's more suited to our type of finishing. This is no slam against Jekko, they just have more of a production style shop. So we need someone with more of an artistic look on things that's gonna give these pieces the special care and attention that they deserve. Now, what Jekko's spraying here is a 2-component acrylic urethane on the table. It is the best finish that we offer in terms of protection, but it's not quite as natural as some of the other alternatives that we offer. We also allow our clients to pick from an oil-based finish, which allows you to feel all the grain and texture in the pores of the wood. Regardless of which finish option that our clients pick, we still coat the tables with our Black Forest ceramic coating, as it's a critical step of ensuring that you get maximum protection and durability out of your pieces. Something else that we've started doing on our tables is we've switched from a burnt-in brand to a metal brand. These are made by a company called Blue Badger Branding in the UK, and they do an excellent job. Now, this video was filmed before we had our new ceramic product out, but we have come out with a new formula, and it's a sprayable graphene ceramic coating, and we've had a few customers buy it so far. They're blown away. It has an even higher sheen than our existing products, and it's much easier to apply. So if you guys use the code SPRAY10, you get 10% off your ceramic, or you can add the sprayable graphene and a small can of our furniture oil, and then use the code FREE OIL and you'll get the oil for free. And being that this was a local client, we did get the pleasure of personally getting to deliver this piece into their home. It's not a very big table, but it's deceivingly heavy with the amount of resin that's in there. So we're getting this piece out of the diesel into our client's home, and then we'll get their base attached onto the underside. This base was supplied by our client, so we didn't have any role in the design or fabrication, but I personally think it suited the top quite well. It was going to be the base that went on their other table, but you guys know what happened with that. So just to recap, the top is constructed from California cottonwood burl. We did a layered resin pour to try and create the effect of ocean waves. So we used our Black Forest deep resin. We first did a transparent blue pour, then we added in white details, and then we finally topped it off with another transparent blue pour. We finished the piece using a 2-component acrylic urethane from Jeco. We filled in all the imperfections using our Black Forest coat thin resin, and then the final step for extra protection was our Black Forest ceramic coating.
It definitely comes this way.
Yeah.
Here, come on, I can do all the crawling around for you. 29 and 33, so 1 and 2, 3. Oh, 4? Yeah, probably just 4.
It's just so nice to move around.
It is.
Yeah, because I did aluminum on that one too, but it's tough though because they screwed and welded this to try to get a little. I'm trying to lighten the room up a little bit because this place is so heavy.
Yeah.
It is. My wife is like, we should paint all the walls. I'm like.
So thank you to everyone who's made it all the way until the end of the video. We really appreciate all your support. Especially lately on the last video, I have to say, you know, that one's done really well for us. Lots of people had many kind words to share, and it may not seem like a big deal to us, but we really do appreciate every single comment and like that you guys leave for us. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.